Have you ever had a song stuck in your head and thought, whatever happened to that band? Some artists seem like they're on the path to stardom only to vanish after one massive hit. It's almost like they were never there, except for that one song we all remember. In this video we're looking at 10 bands that had one huge hit and then disappeared. You might know the songs, but what happened to the artists behind them? Some ran into bad luck, others had issues with their record labels, and some just couldn't recreate the magic. Before we jump in, let me know in the comments, what's a one-hit wonder you still love? And if you enjoy videos like this, consider subscribing so you don't miss more deep dives into music history. Now, let's get into it. First up, we have The Buggles, the band behind the 1979 classic Video Killed the Radio Star. This song became legendary as the first music video ever played on MTV. With its futuristic sound and catchy melody, it seemed like the Buggles were on their way to a long career. But after that massive hit, they never had another song reach the same level. A big reason? They never really functioned as a full-time band. The duo, Trevor Horn and Geoff Downes, quickly moved on to other projects. Horn became a famous music producer, working with artists like Frankie Goes to Hollywood and Seal. Downes joined the rock band Asia, so while the Buggles vanished as a band, their influence lived on. But as far as hits go, they had just one. Next on our list is In 1979, Scottish band The Headboys seemed to be on the verge of stardom with their catchy hit, The Shape of Things to Come. The song had a slick, new wave sound that fit perfectly with the late 70s music scene, and it even charted in the US and UK. But just as quickly as they arrived, they disappeared. Their self-titled debut album failed to produce another successful single, and their second album was never even released. Some blame poor promotion, while others think they simply arrived at the wrong time. With the explosion of punk and post-punk bands, the Headboys' sound got lost in the shuffle. By the early 1980s, the band had broken up, leaving behind just one memorable hit. If you grew up in the 90s, you probably remember Breakfast at Tiffany's by Deep Blue Something. Released in 1995, the song was everywhere, on the radio, on MTV, and stuck in everyone's head. It even reached #5 on the Billboard Hot 100. But after that, things fell apart. The band struggled with label issues, delaying their follow-up album. By the time they released new music, the momentum was gone. The late 90s music scene had shifted, and Deep Blue Something never found their footing again. They continued making music and even reunited years later, but they never recaptured the success of Breakfast at Tiffany's. Today, they're mostly remembered for that one song, a 90s classic that refuses to fade away. The story of the Shags is one of the strangest in music history. In 1969, this group of 3 sisters from New Hampshire released an album called Philosophy of the World. Their father believed they were destined for stardom despite having little musical experience. At first, people thought their music was a joke. Their offbeat rhythms and out-of-tune singing were unlike anything else. Critics and listeners mostly ignored them, and they quickly faded away. But years later, the Shags developed a cult following, with artists like Kurt Cobain calling them brilliant in their own unique way. They never had another hit, and their career ended by the mid-70s. But their story proves that sometimes a band doesn't need multiple hits to leave a lasting impact. In 1964, British band The Honeycombs took the music world by storm with their hit Have I the Right? The song, produced by legendary producer Joe Meek, had a unique stomping beat and catchy melody that made it a #1 hit in the UK and a top 5 hit in the US. One thing that set the Honeycombs apart was their drummer, Honey Landry, one of the first female drummers in a major rock band. But despite their early success, the band struggled to follow it up. Their next singles didn't gain traction, and internal tensions made things worse. By 1967, the Honeycombs had completely faded from the music scene. Though they were only around for a short time, Have I the Right remains a classic hit from the British invasion era. In 1970, Australian band The Mixtures scored a massive hit with the Push Bike song. The track had a fun, carefree vibe and was often compared to the music of the Beatles. It became a hit in multiple countries, even reaching #2 in the UK. Despite their success, the Mixtures struggled to keep the momentum going. Their follow-up singles didn't take off, and as the music scene evolved, their light-hearted sound started to feel outdated. By the mid-1970s, the band had faded into obscurity. Even though they didn't have a lasting career, the Push Bike song is still remembered as a fun, feel-good track. It pops up in commercials and movies from time to time, keeping the Mixtures' brief moment in the spotlight alive. In 1968, the crazy world of Arthur Brown burst onto the scene with the fiery hit Fire. The song, with its dramatic vocals and psychedelic sound, shot to #1 in the UK and #2 in the US. Arthur Brown's theatrical performances, complete with flaming headpieces, made him unforgettable. But after Fire, things cooled off quickly. The band's follow-up songs failed to chart, and internal tensions led to their breakup in 1969. Arthur Brown continued making music in other projects, but he never came close to that same success again. Despite disappearing from the charts, Fire remains a cult classic, especially in psychedelic rock circles. And with its famous opening line, I am the god of hellfire. It's a song that rock fans won't forget anytime soon. In 1966, British folk pop band The Overlanders found sudden success with their cover of Michelle, a song originally written by The Beatles. Their version topped the UK singles chart, making them a household name, at least for a moment. But while covering a Beatles song gave them a hit, it also became their biggest challenge. They struggled to follow it up with an original song that resonated the same way. Their later singles failed to make an impact, and as the music scene rapidly changed in the late 60s, the Overlanders faded away. By the end of the decade, the band had completely disappeared from mainstream music. Today, they're mostly remembered for bringing Michelle to the charts, but their own identity as a band never fully took shape. In 1958, American duo The Carlin Twins hit it big with their song When. The track was a massive success, reaching #5 on the Billboard Hot 100 and even hitting #1 in the UK. With their smooth harmonies and clean-cut image, they seemed destined for long-term success. But after When, the Twins struggled to find another hit. Their follow-up singles never gained much attention, and by the early 1960s, they had completely faded from the spotlight. The rise of rock and roll and changing music trends made it tough for them to stay relevant. Although their time at the top was brief, When remains a classic doo-wop hit. From the late 50s, the Carlin Twins may have disappeared, but their one big song still brings nostalgia to oldies fans. As we've seen, having a hit song doesn't always mean lasting success. These bands all had their moment in the spotlight, but for one reason or another, they couldn't keep the momentum going. Some faced bad luck, others struggled with changing music trends, and a few simply moved on. But even if they only had one hit, they still left a mark on music history. Their songs live on in movies, radio, and nostalgia playlists. Which one-hit wonder do you still love? Let us know in the comments, and if you enjoyed this, don't forget to like and subscribe for more music stories.